walking through a dream, I see you. What if I told you it was all meant to be? There goes my mind erasing, closed off from love. I didn't need the pain. I am with or without you. Someone once told me that you have to choose. I'll sing it one last time for you. Your love shines the way. So what if it hurts me? Oh, I can't believe it's happening. Louder, just wanna be happy. I need you to see.
She had the voice of an angel, the looks of a star, and the kind of talent that made Simon Cowell call her the greatest singer he'd ever discovered. Leona Lewis was supposed to be the next Mariah Carey, but today her story stands as one of the biggest cautionary tales in music history. What went wrong? Leona rose to international fame after winning the X Factor in 2006. Her debut album, Spirit, smashed records, and her single Bleeding Love became a global anthem. She seemed unstoppable, but behind the scenes, her career was being shaped and arguably stifled by an industry more focused on quick profits than her long-term artistry. So how did a singer who once topped charts across the world end up sidelined by the very machine that built her? This is the untold story of Leona Lewis, a story of industry control, shattered dreams, and a voice that deserved so much more. Let's get into it. When Leona Lewis won the X Factor in 2006, it felt like the dawn of a new era. The show had found its crown jewel, and Simon Cowell was quick to declare her the next big thing. With a voice compared to Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, the media and fans alike labeled her the next global diva, destined for superstardom. And why wouldn't they? She had the vocal range, the ability to hit impossibly high notes effortlessly, and the kind of poise that made her seem untouchable. But from the start, Leona's image was meticulously crafted. Unlike Mariah, who was a powerhouse songwriter and fiercely controlled her narrative, Leona was seen as more of a blank canvas. Her talent was undeniable, but her career was carefully molded by the likes of Simon Cowell and Clive Davis. Every move, from her song choices to her promotional appearances, was calculated to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. The public bought into the image. After all, here was a singer who seemed perfect, beautiful, humble, and insanely talented. But as we would soon learn, that perfection came at a cost. The industry wasn't interested in letting Leona carve her own path or showcase her artistic identity. Instead, they doubled down on their strategy to turn her into the next Mariah, without giving her the creative freedom or individuality that legends are built on. This misconception that she was destined to take over Mariah's throne was as much a burden as it was a blessing. It set expectations sky high, and anything less than a flawless career trajectory would be seen as a failure. But as we'll uncover, the cracks in the foundation were there from the very beginning. Leona's rise was built on a promise that the industry never truly allowed her to fulfill. Here's the truth. Leona Lewis was never set up to succeed long-term. Instead, she was a product of an industry obsessed with quick returns and shallow comparisons. Her talent was undeniable, but instead of letting her shine on her own terms, the music industry boxed her into an outdated mold. Her debut album, Spirit, was a commercial masterpiece. It became the fastest-selling debut album in UK history, and her breakout single, Bleeding Love, topped charts in over 30 countries. But behind the polished production and record-breaking numbers, critics couldn't ignore a glaring issue. The music felt safe. Too safe. Leona's incredible voice took center stage, but the songs themselves lacked personality, originality, or risk. And here's where the hot take comes in. The industry didn't see Leona Lewis as an artist, they saw her as a product. Instead of nurturing her creativity, they focused on repackaging a formula that worked for Mariah Carey in the early 90s. The problem? The world had changed since then. By the mid-2000s, audiences were shifting toward edgier, more experimental artists. Beyoncé was dominating with bold visuals and high-energy performances. Rihanna was reinventing herself with every album. Even Mariah herself had evolved, collaborating with hip-hop artists and embracing new styles to stay relevant. Leona, on the other hand, was given a more conservative path. Her image was polished to perfection, her music tailored to appeal to the widest demographic possible. But this approach ignored a fundamental truth about modern pop music. Fans don't just want to hear great vocals, they want to connect with an artist's personality, creativity, and evolution. And in that sense, Leona was being held back. The evidence is clear. While Bleeding Love became a cultural phenomenon, follow-up singles like Better in Time and Forgive Me didn't make nearly the same impact. Why? Because they failed to give audiences a sense of who Leona Lewis really was. Instead of letting her push boundaries or explore her artistry, the industry leaned into generic, middle-of-the-road pop. And while that strategy worked for her debut, it wasn't sustainable in a music landscape that demanded constant reinvention. Leona Lewis wasn't failing as an artist. The industry was failing her. They didn't give her the space to grow, experiment, or evolve. And, as a result, they turned one of the most promising voices of a generation into a cautionary tale of what happens when talent is overshadowed by corporate strategy. Leona Lewis's career wasn't derailed by a lack of talent. It was undone by an industry that prioritized short-term gains over long-term artistry. Her early success created massive expectations, but the very system that launched her was also the one that failed to sustain her. Let's break down why. First, the lack of creative control. From the beginning, Leona's career was tightly controlled by Simon Cowell and his label, Psycho. While Simon's influence helped craft her early success, it also limited her ability to grow as an artist. She wasn't given the freedom to write her own songs, experiment with different genres, or develop a distinctive artistic identity. Instead, her music followed a rigid formula, focused on showcasing her voice rather than telling her story. And while her voice could carry nearly anything, the music often lacked personality or depth, leaving fans wondering who Leona Lewis really was. Second, the shift in the music industry. By the late 2000s, the pop music landscape was rapidly changing. Artists like Lady Gaga, Rihanna, and Beyoncé were redefining what it meant to be a global superstar. They embraced bold visuals, edgy production, and constant reinvention. In contrast, Leona's music and image remained rooted in a more traditional, safe pop style, which started to feel out of place in an era of risk-takers. Fans began gravitating toward artists who weren't just talented, but also unapologetically authentic. Then came the struggles with promotion. After the explosive success of her debut album, her follow-up album, Echo, was released in 2009, but didn't receive the same level of attention or support. Critics noted that while Echo had its moments, it didn't deliver the same impact as Spirit. Worse, many fans didn't even know the album was coming, as it seemed to lack the aggressive marketing push that her debut had received. The result? A sharp decline in sales and momentum. Perhaps the most telling moment came when Simon Cowell's label offered Leona an album of covers. For any artist, this is a red flag, a sign that the label no longer believes in their ability to sell original music. For Leona, who had been fighting for more creative control, this was the final straw. It was a clear indication that the industry saw her as a safe bet, not as an artist with a unique voice and vision. Shortly after, she parted ways with Psycho, marking the beginning of a new chapter, but also highlighting the uphill battle she faced to regain her footing. The reality is that Leona's story isn't unique. Many artists who rise to fame through reality TV face similar challenges. The machine that builds them up is often more interested in capitalizing on their initial fame than nurturing their long-term potential. And when the hype dies down, they're left to fend for themselves in an industry that often values spectacle over substance. Leona Lewis's downfall wasn't about her, it was about the system. A system that prioritized marketability over artistry, quick profits over creative freedom, and hype over sustainability. And unfortunately, she became another victim of an industry that's all too willing to move on to the next big thing. Leona Lewis's struggles in the music industry weren't just about creative control, they were compounded by the immense pressure to stay relevant in an ever-changing landscape. While her debut album had set records and cemented her as an international star, the cracks in the system became more apparent as her career progressed. One of the most persistent criticisms of Leona was that she was too safe or too boring. Her reserved personality, while endearing to many fans, didn't align with the industry industry's growing demand for artists to have bold, attention-grabbing personas. In an era dominated by the likes of Lady Gaga's wild theatrics and Rihanna's edgy reinventions, Leona's calm and grounded demeanor didn't generate the kind of headlines or viral moments that kept artists in the spotlight. The media and industry alike seemed to undervalue her quiet professionalism, favoring spectacle over substance. Her second album, Echo, symbolized these challenges. Despite solid reviews and some standout tracks, it failed to replicate the commercial success of Spirit. Fans and critics alike noted that the album lacked a clear identity. It was a collection of well-produced songs that showcased her voice, but didn't give listeners a deeper sense of who she was as an artist. To make matters worse, the album's promotional campaign felt lackluster. Without the same marketing machine behind her, Echo didn't receive the push it needed to thrive, particularly in the US market. Then came the physical and emotional toll of navigating the industry. In a shocking incident during a book signing, Leona was assaulted by a fan, a deeply traumatic experience that underscored the darker side of fame. While she publicly thanked fans for their support and tried to move forward, the event served as a reminder of the intense scrutiny and unpredictable dangers that come with being in the public eye. Financial struggles also played a role. While Leona's albums sold millions of copies, much of the revenue went to the record labels and executives behind her. Like many artists who rise through reality TV platforms, she didn't own her masters or have significant control over her earnings. For someone who had worked tirelessly to break into the industry, this lack of financial and artistic autonomy was a bitter pill to swallow. By the time her third album, Glassheart, was released, it was clear that the industry had shifted its focus elsewhere. The album, which leaned into a more electronic and dance-oriented sound, received mixed reviews and limited promotion. Though Leona was trying to evolve and experiment, it seemed as though the label had already moved on, offering her an album of covers as her next project. For an artist of Leona's caliber, this was more than disappointing. It was insulting. These struggles weren't just about music, they were about an artist fighting to be taken seriously in a system that often sees reality TV stars as disposable. Leona's talent was never the issue. The problem was an industry that didn't know how to nurture her growth or adapt to her evolving artistry. And while she continued to perform, release music, and stay true to herself, the challenges she faced highlighted just how unforgiving the music world can be for those who don't fit its mold. Leona Lewis may have faced setbacks, but her story didn't end with her struggles. In fact, her decision to part ways with Simon Cowell's Psycho label marked the beginning of her journey toward reinvention and independence. It was a bold move for an artist whose career had been so tightly controlled, but it was one that allowed her to finally take charge of her artistry. After leaving Psycho, Leona signed with Island Records and released her fourth studio album, I Am, in 2015. This project represented a turning point. It was personal, authentic, and a reflection of her true self. While the album didn't reach the commercial heights of her earlier work, it showcased an artist who was finally finding her voice outside the constraints of the industry's expectations. Songs like Thunder and the title track, I Am, carried themes of empowerment and resilience, proving that Leona wasn't giving up on her passion, even if the industry had moved on. What's remarkable about Leona is her refusal to conform to the pressures of fame. While many artists sacrifice authenticity to maintain their place in the spotlight, Leona stayed true to who she was. She shifted her focus to projects that aligned with her values, including her work as an animal rights activist and vocal advocate for social issues. Her Christmas album, Christmas with Love, released in 2013, further solidified her place as a staple for the holiday season. The lead single, One More Sleep, became a modern holiday classic and reminded fans of her ability to create timeless music. Beyond music, Leona has found happiness and fulfillment in her personal life. She married choreographer Dennis Jock in 2019, and in 2022, the couple welcomed their first child, a baby girl. These milestones, while quieter than her days as a global superstar, highlight a life grounded in love, balance, and purpose. Leona also continued to tour and perform, proving that her connection with fans remained strong. She brought her powerful voice to stages worldwide, reminding audiences of the raw talent that first captivated them. Her resilience in the face of industry challenges has inspired many, showing that success isn't always about topping charts. It's about staying true true to yourself and finding joy in what you do. Leona's career may not have followed the trajectory many expected, but that's what makes her story so compelling. She didn't let the industry define her worth, and she found ways to thrive on her own terms. Her journey is a testament to the power of resilience, reinvention, and the courage to walk away from what no longer serves you. Leona Lewis's career is more than just a story of highs and lows. It's a case study in how the music industry treats its most talented artists, especially those who rise to fame through reality TV. Her journey highlights some critical lessons about the nature of fame, the challenges of creative freedom, and the pitfalls of an industry that often prioritizes profit over artistry. 1. Talent alone isn't enough. Leona's vocal ability was world-class. Critics and fans alike recognized her as one of the most gifted singers of her generation. But in an industry driven by spectacle, raw talent often isn't enough. Audiences want artists who evolve, take risks, and bring their unique identities to the forefront. Leona was boxed into a safe and polished image that failed to showcase her individuality, proving that even immense talent needs room to grow and adapt. 2. The reality TV trap. Leona's journey exposes the limitations of reality TV as a springboard for lasting success. Shows like The X Factor are designed to create instant stars, but they often focus on short-term gains rather than building sustainable careers. Once the cameras stop rolling, the reality for many contestants is a lack of control, a rigid artistic direction, and the pressure to conform to a label's vision rather than their own. 3rd, comparisons can be a curse. Being labeled the next Mariah Carey was both a blessing and a curse for Leona. While the comparison brought her instant credibility, it also set impossible expectations. Mariah wasn't just a singer, she was a songwriter, a risk taker, and an innovator. The industry tried to mold Leona into a similar image without allowing her the creative freedom that made Mariah a legend. In doing so, they failed to highlight what made Leona unique: the industry's focus on profit. Leona's story is a stark reminder that the music business prioritizes profitability over artistry. Her debut album, Spirit, was crafted for mass appeal, but subsequent projects lacked the same investment and care. When the label offered her an album of covers, a move often reserved for artists whose careers are winding down, it became clear that the industry saw her as a product rather than a person with a creative vision. 5. Reinvention requires risk. Artists who achieve longevity often reinvent themselves. Beyoncé embraced bold visuals and political themes. Rihanna transitioned into a beauty mogul while consistently evolving her sound. Mariah Carey moved from adult contemporary ballads to hip-hop collaborations. Leona's struggle to reinvent herself wasn't due to a lack of desire. It was the result of an industry that resisted letting her step outside the box they had placed her in. 6. Resilience is the true measure of success. Despite the challenges, Leona's story is one of resilience. She didn't let industry setbacks define her, and she found ways to carve out a fulfilling life and career on her own terms. Her decision to leave Psycho and create music that aligned with her values was a bold move that required courage and self-belief. In doing so, she showed that success isn't always about chart-topping hits. It's about staying true to yourself. Leona's journey forces us to question the nature of the music industry itself. How many more talented artists have been overlooked, stifled, or cast aside because they didn't fit a marketable mold? And what does her story say about the future of artists who emerge from reality TV? Her career may not have followed the traditional trajectory of a pop icon, but it left an indelible mark. Leona Lewis remains a symbol of perseverance, authenticity, and the power of staying true to one's own voice, even in the face of an unforgiving industry. Leona Lewis's story isn't just about what could have been. It's about the resilience of an artist who refused to let the industry define her. While she may not have reached the iconic heights of the legends she was compared to, her journey offers something just as powerful, a testament to the strength it takes to stay true to yourself in an industry that often values profit over passion. Her voice, her music, and her perseverance have left an undeniable legacy. From breaking records with Bleeding Love to carving out a space for herself outside the constraints of her label, Leona proved that success isn't always measured in platinum albums or sold-out arenas. Sometimes, it's measured in the courage to stand up for what you believe in, even when it means walking away from the spotlight. But her story also raises questions that resonate far beyond her own career. How many artists with undeniable talent have been cast aside because they didn't fit the mold? How many others have been silenced by an industry that favors instant gratification over artistic longevity? And as we look to the future of music, can reality TV platforms truly create lasting icons? Or are they simply machines for short-term success? Leona Lewis might not have become the next Mariah Carey, but maybe she didn't need to. Her journey reminds us that the music industry is complicated, often unforgiving, but also full of opportunities for reinvention and growth. And if her story teaches us anything, it's that staying authentic to who you are is the most important success of all. What do you think about Leona's journey? Was she let down by the industry, or was it simply a case of bad timing? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more untold stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.